Just minutes ago, the royal world was shaken to its core. Princess Anne, known for her composure and loyalty, stepped before cameras with tears in her eyes and broke the silence surrounding Princess Catherine. Her voice trembled as she revealed a truth the palace never wanted the public to hear. This wasn't rumor. It wasn't speculation. It was heartbreak. What Anne confessed has left Britain stunned, the monarchy reeling, and every royal watcher holding their breath. Princess Anne breaks the silence. At exactly 9:03 a.m. on October 5th, Princess Anne stepped outside Gatcombe Park. The cold air cut through the quiet countryside as she faced waiting reporters. There was no fanfare, no official notice, only Anne, standing still in a navy coat with the Royal Scots Dragoon Guard's pin on her chest. For a royal known for restraint, her eyes told another story. Red, tired, but resolute. Anne gripped the podium with both hands. "There's something I cannot stay silent about," she began. Cameras clicked rapidly. Every journalist expected a statement about King Charles, yet when she spoke the next name, the crowd froze. "It concerns Catherine, Princess of Wales." Her voice wavered slightly, then steadied. "I will not allow her to face this alone." The weight in her tone silenced even the press photographers. Reporters leaned forward as Anne revealed she had visited Catherine just 5 days earlier. She said, "She is brave, she is kind, but she is unwell." It was the first acknowledgement in 6 weeks that something was deeply wrong. For the first time since July, the public heard Catherine's name spoken with raw emotion instead of royal polish. Anne's statement lasted barely 4 minutes, but it sent shockwaves through Britain. Within half an hour, BBC News interrupted regular programming. Princess Anne trended across Twitter and Instagram, while palace gates were surrounded by cameras. The monarchy's tight control cracked in a single breath. And for millions, one question now echoed: what happened to Catherine? Anne's 4-minute confession broke the calm, but her words were only the beginning. Within hours, insiders started leaking details, and the truth behind Catherine's hidden struggle began to surface. What Anne revealed left the nation stunned. By noon that same day, palace staff scrambled as a private memo leaked from Clarence House. It confirmed that Princess Catherine had been under medical supervision since mid-August, not at Adelaide Cottage but in a discreet clinic near Surrey. The memo described long-term monitoring, words that shattered public reassurances about her rest. Anne had visited Catherine on September 30th, spending nearly 2 hours in her room. A witness later said, "She came out pale as paper." According to insiders, Anne found Catherine weaker than expected, but still smiling. "She tried to make me laugh," Anne told aides. "She didn't want pity." Those present knew that visit had changed Anne forever. By 6 p.m., a written statement followed. "Catherine is stronger than anyone realizes," Anne wrote, "but she should not carry this burden in silence." The phrase, "burden in silence," dominated every evening broadcast. People gathered at Windsor Castle, leaving flowers and cards marked, "Stay strong." Across Britain, the effect was immediate. Candlelight vigils formed, echoing scenes from 1997, after Princess Diana's passing. Except this time, it wasn't loss. It was fear. Fear that another royal was being hidden behind closed doors, and one woman's voice had cracked the wall of secrecy open. The shock of Anne's words soon turned into questions. What was Catherine truly facing behind those locked palace doors? The next revelation painted the struggle in heartbreaking, human detail. Catherine's hidden battle. The next morning, medical insiders leaked details confirming Catherine's condition was serious. Hospital logs showed she'd undergone 2 additional procedures after her initial abdominal surgery in March 2024. The complications were described as non-benign, a word experts knew meant danger. Between August 10th and September 25th, Catherine was under constant supervision from 3 specialists and 2 nurses rotating in 12-hour shifts. Even senior aides at Kensington Palace weren't told where she was being treated. "We were told she was resting at home," one staffer said. But that wasn't true. Prince William cancelled engagements between September 7th and 21st, officially for family reasons. In truth, he spent nights at the clinic beside her bed. One nurse recalled him arriving at 3:45 a.m., whispering, "Just keep her comfortable." His exhaustion became impossible to hide. Catherine's greatest worry wasn't herself. It was her children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. She told doctors, "Please, don't let them find out through the news." That plea reached Anne's ears. The revelation made her act. For Anne, silence was no longer loyalty. It was betrayal. The truth was out, but Anne's courage brought a storm. Her next decision, to publicly challenge royal protocol, would ignite tensions inside Buckingham Palace that hadn't surfaced in decades. Why Anne couldn't stay silent any longer. For Princess Anne, the breaking point came during a private meeting at Balmoral Castle on September 28th. Senior royals had gathered to discuss how to handle Catherine's health situation. One aide recalled Anne's voice echoing down the corridor, "We can't keep pretending." The meeting lasted just 45 minutes, but by the end, Anne walked out visibly furious. That night, she phoned her private secretary and said, "Prepare my statement." Anne had spent decades following royal rules. Yet this crisis felt different. She saw 41-year-old Catherine deteriorating quietly, while palace officials debated wording. In Anne's view, dignity had turned into denial. She told a confidant on October 1st, "If the public can handle wars and scandals, they can handle truth." That single line, later leaked, spread across the media as a rare act of defiance from the monarchy's most disciplined member. Sources confirmed that Prince William begged her not to go public. He feared a media frenzy, especially while managing King Charles's ongoing health treatments. But Anne was unmoved. "People love her," she told him. "They have a right to know." It was compassion, not rebellion, that drove her. When Anne finally delivered her statement at 9:03 a.m., she knew the risks: reputational damage, internal backlash, even strained family ties. Yet her conviction outweighed caution. For the first time in modern royal history, a senior royal defied official silence for the sake of truth. The monarchy's quietest figure had become its loudest conscience. Anne's defiance had shattered the wall of secrecy. But what followed next exposed something even darker. The palace itself had been hiding more than the public ever suspected. The palace's disturbing role in hiding the truth. Within 24 hours of Anne's statement, multiple palace insiders began leaking documents. Emails from August 2024 revealed senior officials discussing containment strategy. One aide suggested delaying any health updates about Catherine until mid-October, calling it strategic optics. The tone wasn't medical, it was political. By September 10th, internal memos had circulated between Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. They discussed removing Catherine's upcoming charity visits quietly from the royal calendar. Another line read, "Silence is stability." That phrase appeared in at least 3 separate documents, according to reporters from The Times. To the public, It now appeared as though the palace had chosen image over honesty. Even senior staff were confused. One communications aide revealed he was ordered to recycle pre-written tweets about Catherine's recovery to maintain calm. The palace wanted to create the illusion of normalcy. They were desperate to control perception, said a source. Every post, every word, had to make her seem fine. It was the perfect illusion, until Anne spoke. The fallout was immediate. Public trust, once steady, plummeted overnight. For the first time since 1997, royal approval ratings dropped below 60%, according to early polling by YouGov. Inside the palace, panic meetings stretched past midnight. Senior courtiers argued, aides resigned, and phones buzzed with urgent calls marked classified. The monarchy's greatest threat wasn't external scandal anymore. It was exposure from within. While palace aides scrambled to manage damage, one person's silence spoke louder than any statement: Prince William's. His private anguish soon became the most human part of this unfolding tragedy. William's private reaction. As headlines exploded across London, Prince William disappeared from public view. Insiders confirmed he spent 10 consecutive nights at a private hospital in Surrey, where Catherine was still under observation. Staff described him as pale, exhausted, and protective. One nurse recalled him whispering to Catherine at 3:20 a.m., "I can't lose you." It was the first time he'd been seen crying since Queen Elizabeth's funeral. Behind closed doors, William's temper clashed with palace advisors. During a tense September 3rd meeting, he shouted, "This isn't politics, it's my wife!" His aides tried to calm him, warning that public disclosure could destabilize the crown. But William had reached breaking point. Friends said he felt trapped between love and duty. When Anne acted, he understood, even if he couldn't admit it. Those close to him said he'd been in constant contact with Princess Anne since late September. Their bond, once distant, grew into alliance. "He trusted her completely," said one confidant. "She became the only person he could talk to." When Anne spoke on October 5th, William wasn't surprised. He was relieved. Someone had said what he couldn't. By the following morning, William's image shifted in the public eye. No longer the calm heir, he became the grieving husband holding the kingdom's sympathy. The photograph of him leaving the hospital, head bowed at 6:47 a.m., spread worldwide. For millions, it wasn't royalty they saw that day. It was humanity. William's pain moved the nation, but the storm was far from over. What came next would deepen the heartbreak. Catherine's own words, hidden until now, were about to surface. Catherine's final letter. 2 days after Anne's revelation, the world learned about Catherine's private letter, written on September 18th, nearly 3 weeks before Anne's statement. Sealed with her personal wax insignia and delivered directly to Gatcombe Park, it was addressed only to "My dear Anne." Inside were 5 paragraphs of truth, written late at night while Catherine was alone in her hospital room. Her handwriting was shaky, but elegant. "If I can no longer speak," she wrote, "promise you'll let them know I tried." She mentioned Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis by name, calling them her 3 reasons to fight. Catherine also thanked Anne for her loyalty, saying, "You are the only one who understands that silence is not strength." Those who read the note said it felt both heartbreaking and defiant. Anne confirmed the letter's existence during a short statement outside Windsor at 10:15 a.m. the following morning. She read one passage aloud. "If my voice fades, speak gently but truthfully. in my place." The crowd went silent. For the first time, Catherine's own words gave the public a glimpse into her courage and her quiet suffering. By that evening, candles filled the streets of London and Cardiff. People gathered outside hospitals, whispering prayers for the Princess of Wales. The note changed everything. It turned rumors into reality and secrecy into sorrow. The monarchy's silence could no longer compete with Catherine's written truth. The letter touched millions, but grief soon transformed into fury. Across Britain, people demanded answers, not sympathy, and what began as mourning quickly erupted into a movement that shook the monarchy. The nation erupts. By the morning of October 7th, crowds had filled Trafalgar Square. Candles, banners, and chants carried one name: Catherine. Hashtags like hashtag Truth for Kate, hashtag Stand with Anne, and hashtag Let Her Be Heard exploded online, with over 40 million posts in less than a day. Outside Buckingham Palace, citizens stood in silence, holding signs reading, "Tell us everything." Media coverage went non-stop. Every major network, BBC, ITV, Sky News, broadcast the same question: who silenced Catherine? Commentators compared the growing unrest to 1997, when grief over Princess Diana's death turned to anger at royal secrecy. It was history repeating itself, only this time in the age of social media. Protests spread to Edinburgh, Belfast, and Manchester within 48 hours. Crowds demanded transparency and called for official medical confirmation of Catherine's condition. Over 120,000 signatures were delivered to Downing Street, forcing ministers to address public distress over royal communications. The monarchy had never faced such emotional rebellion in decades. Inside palace walls, officials panicked. Emergency meetings were held in Buckingham's East Wing until 2 a.m., led by senior courtiers and lawyers. But no statement could calm the fury. Anne had unleashed what many called the people's truth. For the first time, Britain stood not behind its crown, but beside its princess. As anger filled the streets, one question grew louder. Where was Queen Camilla? Her vanishing act was no coincidence, and soon, whispers about her role would turn into a national scandal. Camilla's vanishing act. Just days before Anne's speech on October 3rd, Queen Camilla's name quietly disappeared from the royal diary. By October 6th, her official portraits were taken down from 2 corridors inside Buckingham Palace. Staff described the mood as unnervingly quiet. For someone constantly visible, Camilla's sudden absence was impossible to ignore. A source from Clarence House claimed she'd been advised to step back after a heated exchange with Princess Anne in late September. Witnesses said Anne confronted her about withholding medical updates on Catherine. The argument allegedly lasted 20 minutes, ending with Anne storming out, visibly shaken. Hours later, Camilla canceled a scheduled charity visit. No explanation, no replacement. By October 8th, tabloids were ablaze. Headlines screamed, "Where is Camilla?" and "Has the Queen gone into hiding?" Theories flooded the press. Some said she'd fled to her Wiltshire estate. Others hinted she'd been told to stay out of the public eye. Even foreign outlets like Le Monde and CNN questioned if her silence was guilt or grief. Palace staff refused comment, fueling the fire. When Anne said, "Some have chosen ambition over loyalty," during her speech, the nation believed she meant Camilla. The backlash was instant. Public trust in the Queen Consort fell by 22% in polls within 3 days. Whether true or not, her silence became her verdict. With Camilla vanished and the palace collapsing under secrecy, the spotlight turned to the only two figures left standing, Anne and William, and the uncertain future they now faced. What happens now? By October 9th, royal life had ground to a halt. Every official engagement was paused. Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and even Clarence House released only short, pre-approved lines. The family thanks the public for their concern. But the people weren't asking for thanks. They wanted truth. Prince William was reportedly preparing a national address from Windsor Castle. Advisors drafted 10 versions, each more cautious than the last. But one insider revealed William's private words to a friend, "I'll tell them everything, even if it costs me." For him, the battle between duty and honesty had reached its breaking point. Meanwhile, Princess Anne retreated to Gatcombe Park, exhausted but unshaken. Close friends said she refused interviews, choosing silence as her final act of strength. One aide quoted her saying, "I didn't break the monarchy. I saved its soul." That line, repeated by broadcasters across the BBC, became a symbol of her courage. Outside royal gates, candles still burned for Catherine, the woman who united a nation without speaking a word. No one knew what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain: the monarchy would never return to the silence it once hid behind. Anne's truth had broken it, forever. Anne's honesty became Britain's turning point. What began as a single voice of conscience had grown into a national awakening, one that demanded humanity above hierarchy, truth above tradition. As the echoes of Princess Anne's words ripple through Britain, one thing is clear: the walls of royal secrecy have finally cracked. Catherine's courage, Anne's defiance, and William's heartbreak have rewritten what loyalty means inside the palace. The nation now waits, united in concern and admiration, for the next chapter of this unfolding royal storm. Because after today, silence will never again be mistaken for strength, and truth will never again be hidden behind palace gates.